Hey Gen Mexers, I am in Ajijic, Mexico, and we are going to be getting the story of a couple that pulled the trigger on retirement at ages 47 and 48. Get their story of what life was like in the United States and making that really quick transition down to life here in Ajijic. Let's go ahead and meet Craig and KJ. They have a YouTube channel called Truly Remarkable Life. And here they are.
Hey, this is Craig.
And this is KJ.
And we are Truly Remarkable Life. We've been living here in Mexico, in Ajijic, since October of 2022.
Okay, this is the life of YouTubers. These guys just got recognized on the streets here of Ajijic by some folks who live here. Trying to get 3 folks onto video here during a walk-in talk video is a little bit tough. So we're gonna actually get to their place and continue the video from inside their condo. What's it?
It's a townhouse.
Townhouse, that's the word. Okay, so we'll see you there next, unless some other people recognize them on the street. Welcome to Mexican Locks. Turn the key 800 times. We've now settled in this kind of sunroom area in Craig and KJ's house. So I am going to introduce you to them and have them tell us just a little bit of where their story starts in the United States.
Well, I'm originally from Texas. I grew up in a little town just south of Fort Worth, and he's originally from the greater St. Louis area. And we lived the last 8 years in the States outside of St. Louis. It was like, I think in April of 2022, I was in the mortgage industry, and after COVID hit and interest rates fell, I knew that there was going to be it was going to bounce back and my industry would start to collapse. He had been remodeling houses, and so he was under a lot of physical stress and everything. I was under a lot of job-related stress, and I just had the idea. I'm like, it's time. I'm ready to retire, and I brought it up with him, and he said, "That's kind of funny. I'm tired of remodeling these houses."
Yep.
So
I can't do this anymore. I'm getting older. I had just built a 90-foot retaining wall, and my body told me that was the last one. And so it was funny because literally on the same day that I said I can't do this anymore, he came to me and said, "I think it's time." And I'm like, "Let's pull the trigger. Let's do this."
We researched for about 2 weeks and decided, we made our firm decision, and I gave my notice at work, and 4 months later, we were here.
Before we go into where here is and details about why they landed here in Ajijic, I want to hear a little bit more about that time in the States, that transition moment, maybe a little bit before that transition moment is, what's stress and whatnot in the United States that would get them to retire so early and head overseas.
We had always kind of connected over wanting to live outside of the U.S. and experience other cultures, but it was always a future thing. And so we were kind of always planning for it, living below our means and all of that stuff to prepare ourselves. But in the last 6 years that he was working, things really got intense. And the industry that he was in was such it was just intense is the right word. It was 12 hours a day. It was, if I didn't bring him food, he didn't eat. And then at the same time, I'm trying to renovate houses and the house that we lived in, and we were preparing to have this as our forever home, potentially. But things change. And I was like, I cannot do another house. Financially, things were just getting more and more expensive. And we kept running out of money, and we're like, wait a minute, we live below our means. And then his job, the industry itself started to kind of go awry, and his job did not want him to leave. He was a very valuable person there, and it was almost like having to just pull that string and cut the cord and say, "No, I'm leaving."
I gave my notice, and it was like, as that was approaching, actually the day after I gave my notice, my boss came in and was like, "Okay, look, can you do something soft? We know you're retiring." And so I agreed to stay and help out. And it just kept going on and on and on. And as we're trying to get ready to move to Mexico and those wheels are turning, I ended up handing him my laptop 2 weeks before we left the States. And we were selling everything, the house, everything. And I actually was still on staff when we moved. I was available for major blow-ups or problems or something like that. I could still be reached as a consultant. So it was tough.
And it happened.
It was very tough to unwind myself from my career.
So yeah, so I think when you're working for someone, they don't expect you to retire before 50 or even before 60 or before 65. That's what I love about this channel and meeting these guys is the ability to retire early. You do not need to wait till you're 65, especially when Mexico is part of the mix. And it sounds like for these guys, if they were going to continue to live in the US, and this is a lot of people's story, if you want to continue living there, you got to continue working. So let's hear a little bit about the transition, like going from a career to retired at such an early age and also moving down to Mexico.
So for me to go from having, a full-time, very busy career to being retired, it was not a problem for me whatsoever. I've been planning for this my entire adult life. I knew from the age of 19 I wanted to retire young and I wanted to move abroad and experience other cultures and all that sort of thing. So I turned in my laptop and never looked back. I'd been planning on this.
Career-wise, he absolutely did. He when he was done, he was done. I will say that as the other side of the story here, watching, it was a little bit of an adjustment. I mean, having something that you're doing every day, all day long, that you are so good at and so intensely involved in, and then going to nothing, it requires some adjustment. And fortunately, he's also very good at doing all that research and trying to figure out the best ways to do things. And he got us here with learning how to get your residency and all of those things. So he was able to take his skills of management and throw it into managing how to adjust to this place and where and how the best things were. So.
We passed a pickleball court on the way here, but we're going to hear about what these guys do to stay busy, because that's something a lot of people are concerned with. We're in Ajijic. We actually were just over at the Lake Chapala Society, which is a great way for a lot of people to stay busy down here. But I want to hear from these guys what it is that keeps them busy. And I have a strange feeling I know one of the big things that keeps them busy.
One of the things that we did before we came here was that we had a YouTube channel kind of as a hobby. And when we started coming here, we started sharing the journey of what it was like and the real experience of coming here. And it actually started picking up and people started watching and saying that we were helping them. And so we were like, hey, okay, this is our new area of focus. And we're going to try to help people who are doing the same thing and provide something that whatever it was that we were missing when we watched things, we're going to try to fill that gap. Being real and showing everyone around town and the things that we do takes up a lot of our time on YouTube.
And Craig is a creative guy here. He does the filming, he does the editing, he does all that kind of stuff.
It's a full-time job.
Which is a crazy full-time job. And then I basically, I handle all the business side of everything. And believe it or not, there's a lot of business stuff that goes on behind the scenes to having a YouTube channel.
And life in general, because living in Mexico, you got to figure out how to pay your electric bill. You got to figure out how to set up, different services. And he's taken that on. So that keeps you busy at first. And then there's really no shortage of things to do, especially in Ajijic. You can take art classes. You can walk down the street and meet people, and the next thing you know, you're at a Mel's Casa Social having drinks. You've not got a new friend.
It's a very social environment.
I've facilitated a wedding. A recommitment ceremony. He's made the cake for it. We are members of several different groups. There's a Gay Alliance group here. There's several different types of things like that. And then volunteerism is a huge thing. So we've both volunteered LCS. There's pet rescue things. And
Tulsa, Mexico, I volunteered with a spay-neuter clinic to help the local population.
Yeah, there's just endless opportunities.
Endless opportunities for everything you can possibly imagine. Our next door neighbor is a big bridge player, and there are huge bridge tournaments and stuff all over Mexico. Who would have known? So you're going to stay busy.
In fact, we have to turn things down.
Yeah.
We have to say, no, I'm sorry, we are booked up for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, he'll look at me sometimes and be like, can we just not do anything for 2 days next week?
Yeah.
I need a break.
A lot of those expat communities out there like La Paz, staying busy is not a problem. But these guys, they live right on the edge or the middle, near centro of Ajijic, which is a special place with probably more going on than other places. And I say, like even in La Paz, I feel like if I was downtown, there'd be more going on a regular basis. But Kat and I are both still working full time, kind of, sort of. We don't necessarily need to have all that extra stuff to fill our time. But let's figure out why these guys moved specifically to Ajijic.
Funny story. Whenever we were living in the States, and right before we decided to make this decision, I'd either come across a YouTube video or gotten an email or something, and it was talking about the city of San Antonio Tlacopan. And that happens to be a neighboring town to Ajijic. And being from Texas, I saw San Antonio. It piqued my interest and led me down the rabbit hole. The rabbit hole led to the entire Lake Chapala region. And that's where we discovered Chapala, Ajijic, and everything. And as we started really investigating and everything, we knew we wanted to move abroad. We'd always wanted to move abroad, but there's some fear. There, you know, if you're going to move abroad, there's going to be some fear. And we thought that Ajijic, because there is such a large expat immigrant community here, it would make it a softer landing. We'd be able to do this very quickly and learn how to acclimate to living abroad, and it would be a really good soft introduction. And so we felt like that was a really good opportunity for us. It also was just very appealing. There's a very large LGBTQ population here. The Lake Chapala Society, there's a lot of resources to help expats and immigrants coming into Mexico. And we just felt like that was going to be a really, really good thing. Plus, it's busy here.
Well, plus yeah, and I, you know, my Spanish skills were not up to snuff, and I felt like something in between would give me a good growth opportunity and ease into that language. But also, I discovered it was an artist community, and I was like, I'm on board, because I am a creative person. I've never been able to truly explore that in a very free way. You know, I've done it professionally, not in a very free way. And so taking art classes and just seeing what I can do with it, and writing and having the time and the support. People are just genuinely supportive of artistic endeavors here and love to see what you do and what they do, and you share it with each other. And that's been really eye-opening for me as an individual. So,
and the climate. I mean, the climate and the natural beauty here are just unparalleled. We had always talked about, you know, in our fantasy world about moving to Hawaii whenever we retired, because we love it there, but it's just very cost prohibitive for us. And so whenever we started really getting into Ajijic and this whole area and everything, I was like, Craig, the climate's the same. I mean, you know, it's the same. And, you know, you look out off our back terrazza, and there are these green mountains, and you go to the front terrazza and you're overlooking a lake. And so it's just the temperature here, the climate is amazing, the natural beauty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sun. There's so much sun. It's almost, you know, 300 and something days of sun a year, and it just affects your mood so positively.
Yeah.
It's funny, I just did a video, just a real short, about how much more I come alive when I'm in Mexico, and just kind of that, like, yeah, the sun, the people, everything, positive experience, a positive influence on your mental health. And I am going to be doing a video specifically about mental health, and I'll connect that one if it's already out. But let's go into, I have no idea where we're going. Let's go into talking about the Spanish language, some of the things that I include in every interview, which is a little bit about tour of the home, Spanish, cost, stuff like that. So kind of the things that everyone really wants to know.
Estudié español en la escuela secundaria y colegio.
So we have friends here who are locals, who are bilingual, and we're kind of teaching each other a little bit. Sometimes it's been one of the biggest helps. You know who you are, thank you. But it's funny because we kind of rib each other on what, you know, how we say words and things like that. And I'm learning that it's oxo, not oxo.
Oxo.
Let's all practice oxo.
Spotify, not Spotify.
That's been a big help, and I've seen my language skills grow so much from really interacting locally. And when I go to the small tienda down the street, you know, speaking Spanish, and trying to acclimate to hearing Spanish back has been probably the best thing that I've done.
And I mean, I studied Spanish, you know, for several years in high school and college. And interestingly enough, what I found whenever we moved here was the language I was learning back in the States is Castilian Spanish from Spain. Castilian, sorry. I always do that. Mexico Spanish, it's very different. And what's really fascinating to me is it's regionally different. Different things that are said here in the state of Jalisco are different than things up in Sonora or, other states. And the colloquialisms are very different. And that's been fascinating. One of my interesting journeys here with Spanish, because I do speak a fair amount, is our local friends are helping me to learn how to use these colloquialisms. And, what you're saying is technically correct, but we wouldn't say it that way. We would say it this way here. So that, helping me to kind of refine that, which is really interesting. And there's a big conception that you can move here to the Ajijic Chapala Lakeside area and not speak any Spanish. And that's very, very true. But like I tell everybody, if you do that, you're going to live in a very little bitty gringo box, and you're not going to experience the full flavor of everything that can be your life here. I think it's very important and critical to learn Spanish, and the locals want you to help. They want to help you. It's amazing.
And the culture is so amazing and rich and beautiful. And if you are interested and you start speaking to the locals and you say, why is something this way? What are the decorations that are happening in town? Oh, let me tell you. I mean, they are so excited to tell you and to share it with you, and you learn and grow as a person because of that. And that's been amazing gift.
Being here in Mexico is probably the best way to learn Spanish. Definitely start if you're thinking about moving down here, but you can really expand quickly. And I'm losing where I was going with that. I had a really good place to go too. So it's great when you're in Mexico. It's so much easier to learn Spanish because you're surrounded by it, and you can look at a sign and be like, oh, what is that word? And then look it up and then remember it. You might have to look it up a couple of times. It's definitely nice in a place like Ajijic. The locals have probably become very used to speaking. The locals who don't speak English are probably used to speaking to people from the US or Canada, foreigners, in a more simplified Spanish. And that is something that is very valuable. So being in a community where the locals have learned to slow down, simplify tenses, it is really helpful. Back in La Paz, when I speak to really locals who don't speak any English and don't interact with people who speak English, I have a really hard time understanding them, and they have a very hard time understanding me. But some people, when you're in a community where there's been a longer history of people interacting across languages, it makes it so that the Spanish actually is a little bit easier to understand. But let's go ahead and talk about their place here that they're renting here in Ajijic. Take a tour and find out where we are.
We were looking, just like anyone else, we were looking at all the listings and everything in the area to really compare pricing and compare types of buildings and houses and apartments and what we would want. And we started having conversations on some of the local groups on Facebook. There were some local ladies here who started kind of championing us, and they're like, hey, you guys seem pretty cool and you're real serious about this. We'll answer any questions that you have because we've been here for a couple of years and people helped us, and so we'll help you. And we thought, wow, that's so nice. And we were able to really tell them what we were looking for, and they were telling us about their neighborhood. And then all of a sudden one day she messaged us and said, I just went and walked the dogs, and they're putting up a sign at this house. It's just down the street from us. We know the neighborhood, and it's a great place. We've actually seen it. Would you like us to, help you take a look at it? They not only did walkthroughs on video for us, acted as our point of contact with the leasing agent to help us get in here, and it ended up being this place. So they're now our neighbors. They're some of our better friends here and best friends here, and we actually really like the place.
Interestingly enough, so the lady who owns the house, she had just bought it, and the house has a history, and they did a lot of construction and rehab in the house. And with our background in rehabbing houses and stuff like that, we live here, but we're also helping to facilitate and notice any sort of problems, because the lady who owns it does want this to be a good long-term property. So we're kind of helping with that. And one of the issues we just recently discovered is there is an electrical issue. We noticed our electric bill was getting larger and larger to the point where it was very excessive. And we were talking to our neighbors about what their electrical cost is, and our electric bill was 400 or 4 times what the average electric bill could be here. And so we were able to discover there was actually a splice in a wire outside that went from copper to aluminum, and it was causing some arcs. And so, I mean, our electric bill here was 2,000 pesos for 2 months. Our most recent one was, and really it should be about 400 to 500.
Yeah.
So, that's just part of what we're doing here. And it's something you have to pay attention to.
Yeah. And as far as the actual cost of living here, we live in Ajijic. So Ajijic, we kind of call it the Beverly Hills of Lakeside. Not necessarily in that it's any fancier or anything like that, but the prices tend to be a little bit higher here. We chose this area because it was kind of a solid, yes, we're going to be okay once we get to Mexico. But there are so many beautiful areas around here or other towns here where the cost of living might not be as high. It's not excessive, but it's just there's places that it's a little more reasonable, I guess you'd say. And you get a much more authentic experience in those places, whereas here we're kind of in a half and half. You get a lot of people from up north and you get a lot of locals. And so we like the mix. But if you're looking for something that's super authentically Mexican. Maybe another little town outside, Chapala or Jocotepec.
Yeah. Well, in Ajijic, what's not commonly known back in the States or Canada is Ajijic is a very popular tourist destination, but it's very popular tourist destination for Mexicans. On the weekends Ajijic is full of people from Guadalajara. They have a lot of second homes here. There's a lot of Airbnbs and stuff like that. They come down to sit, be by the lake, and it's really, you get a really interesting mix living in a tourist destination for Mexicans.
That's so interesting because La Paz is very similar, not necessarily just weekend tourists, but tourists who are coming from Mexico City or Guadalajara, more wealthy Mexicans coming out for weeks or even longer, and maybe they have houses in La Paz. So it's really nice because it's built the tourist infrastructure, but it's not just for gringos. But let's talk about the house here.
It's really great because we live on a street it's a little busier. We are on a bus route. We did find that out in advance, but it's something to be aware of when looking at a house because you get bus traffic all day long. But we do have a nice gated front with a cochera for our car. And we didn't have a car when we came here, but we were planning to get one, and we have now. It's got a little bitty garden area out front and something for us to keep ourselves busy with. We don't have a gardener. We like to play with that ourselves. It's a beautiful open front, so there's lots of windows and sun comes in. And once you come into the house, you walk into like a little sitting area that we use to watch TV, and we pretty much on display. You can wave at people as they walk by.
And then you walk through the living room area, and there's the back wall is kind of like it's got like two big cutouts. We have a bar in there, and then some good storage, really deep storage. And you go to you see the staircase going up, and then you go to the left, and there's a smallish kitchen, but it's functional. It does what it needs to do. And then there's a dining area, and you walk back. The laundry area is right there on the right. It's in a closet. It's really, really good. It's got a stackable washer and dryer in it. And around the corner from that is the first full bathroom. And behind that is what we were using as the guest room / my office, KJ's office.
Yeah. And then our master suite actually has a bathroom and closet built in kind of as a suite. And those two rooms are connected with an outdoor breezeway that allows air to kind of come through the house. So it's really nice. Not only do we have sun coming in the front, but in the back as well, because that's kind of the way houses are built here.
And it also helps to create a nice airflow because, there's no air conditioning. So you put some fans up and it's pulling the air from the outside on one end of the house and from the outside on the other end of the house. And then we have it come in to the middle with a fan pointing up, which blows all the hot air up.
And one thing that was important for me, and for anyone else looking for a house here, is to know where your cross breeze is, know what direction your house faces. If you're facing where the cross breeze can blow straight through your home, great. That's going to help you out tremendously. We are fortunate in that aspect, especially on our upstairs. We have a beautiful terrazza and a sunroom, and then a small suite with a room that I use as an office and a small half bath. So it's nice because the upstairs really feels like an open, flowy kind of, almost like you're in a talapa or a little, just a breezeway, whereas the downstairs feels like a regular home, So we have a little bit of both best of both worlds and beautiful views.
Great. So I think we've covered most of the things that we normally cover, but I want to now transition to their channel because these guys are on YouTube. You can find them over there. I'm going to ask them to say, what it is, where to find it, but also what's the idea behind it? What kind of videos can you find over there? And then by the end of the video, there'll be one up on the screen.
Our YouTube channel is Truly Remarkable Life, and that kind of came about years ago as one of our goals. We wanted to live a truly remarkable life. And now we have the opportunity to kind of share that with other people to give them an idea of what it takes, what it took for us to do it. And our goal is to really show the true picture of what we're experiencing and to fill that gap of somewhere in between spreadsheets and fun. We want to show you a little bit of everything and show you us, who we are. And so, again, I'm Craig, this is KJ, and we are Truly Remarkable Life. And our tagline is, if you haven't already, go find your truly remarkable life.
I love that. You definitely need to find your own truly remarkable life. If you want to see their truly remarkable life, check out, there's a video up here from their channel, perhaps the one that we did together, our collab. Also some videos down here about other expats. So hasta luego and go find your truly remarkable life. So hasta luego and find your truly remarkable life. Why couldn't I have said that? I love that. You definitely need to find your own truly
Hold on, my brain just skitzed.